Hi, Special K.
Hey,
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. It's great to do this video with you.
Yeah,
I know you're in the tropics because I see your shirt moving in the fan there to
I like to
stay
have the
cool.
fan going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to stay cool. It's starting to get cooler here during the day in Texas,
that's
so
wonderful.
it's fall. Yeah, we have more typical four seasons here in Texas, but
That
um,
is wonderful.
well, it's wonderful to be doing this video with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about sailing. So begin.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So we want to bring all the really helpful life advice and strategies to people that we can. So here's another video, doing that in that same effort. And the concept is this is a common saying, different people have said it, although you might not have heard it. Um, So the concept is you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails.
Ah,
And so, yeah, so what this means is things happen in life that are out of our control.
mm,
However, you can always choose how you adapt to that, how you respond to that, how you change your mindset to that, how you pivot your strategy to that, to adjust your sails so that you still head towards the destination dream life that you want to build.
mm,
And that's what we're all about here at A Life Design, helping people design better lives and become better people and learn and grow in a fun environment and with a fun community that supports them. So that's the basic idea. And there's many different examples of it. Like, for example, you can't determine your childhood.
mm,
You can't determine the cards you were dealt on that, but you can play the hand better. You can change the way you play the hand.
mhm, mhm,
You can say, okay, I grew up in the ghetto, but I can still find a way to make more money. I can still find a way to take on a more positive attitude, more
mhm,
positive mindset.
mhm,
I can still choose to surround myself with better people
mhm,
who
mhm,
support me growing in life instead of support me staying
mhm,
stuck.
mhm,
I can take care of my body, eat better,
mhm.
exercise more to feel healthier, to feel better. I can still take charge and design my life. That's basically the main concept behind this. So did you want to jump in or do you want me to
Yeah,
keep
I was
going?
just going to say what brought that to mind was Michaela Peterson, um,
Mm,
Jordan Peterson's daughter. Yeah,
yes.
she was diagnosed as a child with the worst case of pediatric arthritis they'd ever seen. There
Right.
were times she was hospital for months at a time. All the
Yeah.
joints didn't work. All the doctors, different parts of Canada, nobody could do anything.
Hmm.
And as she got older, she decided she would try every diet known to man
Hmm.
because she'd already tried all the drugs, right? And nobody had a good prognosis for her. They were basically, you're never going to see 30, you know what I mean? And she was in pain all the time. So pain management was one of her daily activities. And so she stumbled across the, extreme carnivore diet of only eating beef. And some people were doing it to kind of detox, maybe from chemotherapy or other
Hmm.
drug therapies to kind of rinse
Hmm.
things out of your system. And she was suddenly pain free. And so she said, I'm not even
So,
going to make excuses about why this diet works or what the science is.
mhm.
I feel great for the first time in my life. It's beef all the 24/7 for me. And
Yep.
I'm not going to, I mean, complain about me if you want. This works. So she
So,
tried things and adjusted her sales and has had a
yes,
child and gotten married. Her life is working.
that's a perfect example. And speaking of health stuff and diet, don't let anyone tell you you got to be vegan or carnivore,
Right, right.
or standard American diet. Find the diet that works best for you. Don't
Yes.
let other people tell you how to think, tell you how to behave. Adjust your sails,
Hmm.
adjust the rudder of your ship in the way that works best for you to
Yes.
take you where you need to go in your life. And I I care about animals. We should all care about animals, but
Hmm.
ultimately it's a health issue. No one deserves to go through life feeling horrible.
Right.
Whatever diet works best for you, do that.
Yes.
Whether it's carnivore, vegan, keto, standard American diet, whatever you're doing,
Hmm.
you have the right to be healthy and feel good and design your life. So go with what works.
Yeah,
If
and
vegan works for you, great. But if
right.
carnivore works for you, great. So,
To take the responsibility personally and then to do that exploration for what feels right in your body.
mhm,
And you don't know if you're healing something you're not that's undiagnosed like candida, or if you're healing from an autoimmune and you've been told, look, you're just going to swallow these drugs for the rest of your life. That might be true, or it might be true that you can change your diet and dial, step down on those drugs or potentially stop taking them, with medical considerations and so on. But we're learning so much about, you mentioned before our call about the biome,
mhm.
everyone's chemical composition, their DNA,
Microbiome. Yeah.
microbiome, it's different. And
Yep.
so you really do have to adjust your own cells for your own body and find out what makes you feel better when you wake up, what makes you feel tired after you eat it, what gives you a headache. And then not listen to
Absolutely.
people say, oh, you're a wimp because you gave up Cool Ranch Doritos. Well, if they give you a headache or they make your joints swell, stop eating
Mhm.
it. I mean, it's just not right for you. Not wrong in general, just not right for you.
So, exactly. So be adaptable, be ready to pivot, be ready to adjust.
Mhm.
Don't be stuck in the past. There's a famous quote, I think it's a William Faulkner quote or something. And he said, the past isn't even past in some cases. So, for example, if you're ruminating on the past, ruminating on your trauma, and you're stuck there, then your past isn't even past
You're still
because you
living it.
keep you keep bringing it into your present.
Mhm.
But you gotta realize it's you doing that.
Yes.
You're thinking about it in the present.
Mhm.
You don't have to do that. You're thinking about it in the present, ruminating on it. Be adaptable. Be ready to give up thinking about that trauma.
Mhm. Mhm.
Be ready to embark on new adventures and focus on them and move past it.
Mhm.
Be ready to adapt, to
Mhm.
adjust your sales,
Mhm.
whatever happens. And it's the same thing with the future. People worry about the future, but if you're always doing that,
Mhm.
then your future isn't even your future. It's your present. You're trying to make it your present. Well, what about your present being your present?
Right.
Like, you got to enjoy your moments and live your life and make changes if you need to make them to put your future on a better track.
Mhm.
But don't worry about it all the time. Like, be adaptable, be ready to pivot. We can always improve, we can always learn. So
Mhm.
we always need to be ready to be adaptable and
Mhm.
pivot as we need to.
Yeah, that power is so important. The ability to say, well, things have changed, and now what do I
Yeah.
do? And that
Yeah.
change could be up to you, or it could have just happened around you. It could be the economy. It could
Mhm.
be a business environment.
Mhm.
It could be your relationship. The other person wants out. Okay. But change happens. And then how we respond to that change with some pivoting, some flexibility, some adaptability. In coaching, we tell people to where they start is where they are with what they have. That's
Mhm.
where everybody starts. Take an inventory of what you have, understand the landscape of where you are. And now that we know where you are and what you have, we can figure out what it's going to take to get you to where you want to go. So map out now where you are with what you have, and then
Yes.
navigate
Mhm.
how to go where you want to go. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And so, for example, like relationships, like someone can wake up one day and just decide they don't want to be with you anymore. There's stories of people who have been in a relationship with someone for a year or two and then they just get ghosted.
Mhm.
And this was a 2-year relationship. There's not even a
Mhm.
bye, there's not even a breakup conversation. Like, and so the other person's in there, what happened? Like, what is this? Like,
Mhm.
there's no communication. So
Mhm.
that happens to people today. So if that happens to you, I know it's hard, but in the moment, when you can, ask yourself, how can I turn this into a positive?
Mhm.
And turn it into a positive in as many different dimensions as you can. So, for
Yes.
example, mentally, how can I turn this into a positive? In other words, how do I use this experience to think better about future relationships? That's
Mhm.
mentally. How do I turn it into a positive? How do I use this to develop better strategies for
Mhm.
how I date in the
Mhm.
future?
Mhm.
That's mentally turning into positive, emotionally turning into positive. How do I use this to emotionally become more mature?
Mhm.
And I use this as an opportunity to learn how to work through my emotions quicker than I ever have before,
Mhm,
to become more emotionally resilient than I've ever been before.
mhm,
Now, if you choose to do that, if you choose to be adaptable, if you choose to adjust the sails,
mhm,
you will come out much more emotionally strong
mhm,
than you were before.
mhm,
How can I use this to learn to appreciate my solitude more,
mhm,
get more in touch with being me, with my hobbies, with what I love to do, get more
mhm,
in touch with finding inner peace and inner contentment and not needing a relationship?
mhm,
Use this opportunity to become more of that.
mhm,
And that's adjusting your sales, turn it into a positive in every dimension, in
mhm,
every way you can.
mhm,
You can even go back and review the relationship,
mhm,
try to analyze, what did I do wrong? What did she not like? What happened?
mhm,
And use those strategies to do better in your next relationship. Always squeeze all the juice,
mhm.
all the positive juice out of every experience that you can.
Yes,
Turn it into a positive in every single dimension of
yeah.
your life.
Well, in coaching, the question we ask is, how could this serve you? You know,
Mhm.
what can we do now that we couldn't do before this was true? So, you felt like a football widow on Sundays. Now the game's not on your television.
Yeah.
You can go do what you wanted to do because you're not tied to the television for the NFL cycle on Sundays. And so
Mhm.
just look at the ways that something could serve you and start there. We talked in business about a positive catalyst that happened at the birth of Instagram. And
Mhm.
so oftentimes when you hear people's stories, it's this bad thing happened. And this is how I turned it around and found the good and found ways for it to serve me. Sometimes good things happen. You hear
Mhm.
about, lottery winners who do it well or do it poorly, or people inherit money and they do it well or they do it poorly. Sometimes there's a positive catalyst. Oh, I got promoted to the job and I know how to do
Mhm.
about 50% of my new job. And
Mhm.
now I'm in this learning curve real fast for the 50% I don't know how to do.
Mhm.
And so, okay, well, the good news is you got the promotion. The bad news is you need to kick ass and take names, and you only know half of this job. So, sometimes the catalyst for change where you're adjusting your sales is with good news. So, in the case of Instagram, they were building a next generation CRM when CRMs were first emerging into the marketplace. And they had some visual designers that were a part of the team, which was
Mhm.
atypical. And
Mhm.
they said, people with supply chains, people in the fashion industry, people that are doing, graphic design work or video production, the visual images are important. And the relational database that is a CRM should include cataloging these visual images more with more fine tuning.
Mhm.
And the sort of regular programmers were not enthralled with that because they didn't care about visual images, but because they incorporated those components, they became a new thing entirely. The marketplace
Mhm.
embraced them because of the visual components of Instagram. And now there's such a thing as an Instagram influencer, which could not have
Right.
existed
Right.
before Instagram.
Right.
And so it turned this opportunity to do something better and it morphed into something completely different and better. And that caught people by surprise, but they leaned in. They adjusted their sales to, you want visual images? We're going to rock the visual image part of this. And so Instagram is today what it is. And it was this sort of positive marketplace catalyst that had them lean into that wind, which was not the direction they thought they were going to go. So you mentioned as we were discussing this topic, how important it is to know how to pivot, how to be
Yes.
adaptable. So when you start out, this is where I am and what I have to work with. And then change happens and you're growing, you're moving along. And then there's this big change. You once again take inventory where I am, what am I working with? What is the marketplace asking for? What is my partner asking for? What
Mhm.
are the requirements for me to fulfill the new job?
Mhm.
I'm going to redo my inventory and figure out how do I lean into the wind? How do I adjust my sails now? So whether it's a positive change, a seemingly negative change, this adaptability is so important.
Yes, and like you said, work with the wind, don't work against it. So if there's a change in the wind that you can't control, work with it.
Mhm,
Okay, this is the experience that's going to happen now. How do I work with this to use this energy?
mhm,
There's energy coming at me.
mhm,
There's an experience coming at me. Let me work with this like Aikido,
mhm,
use this energy and
mhm,
redirect it to where I need it to go in
mhm.
my life. Don't resist and keep pushing because you're just going to suffer the whole way through it.
Right.
So work with the wind.
Mhm,
Okay, this is where life is going to take me now. I'm
mhm.
going to work with this. I'm going to adjust my sails. You can still head towards your goal that you want to go to, still head towards
Yes.
that island, but you're going to have to adjust the sails, work with the wind and
Mhm,
use it. You're trying to get here. It might force you to go this way for a while, but you're
mhm.
still heading there and you'll veer
Mhm.
back around once you can. You
Yeah,
don't have to go all the way off track. Like, okay, I have to go this way for a while, but then eventually I can just stay on track the best you can with whatever happens in life.
you reset your compass. You might have to go north, northwest for a little while and then come back to true north.
Exactly.
And if you work with colleagues that are supportive, if you have mentors or advisors, if you have coaches,
Mhm.
they can give you that perspective because they're at arm's length and they can help you reset that inventory. Well, given what's happened, and now that you're moving north and northwest for a while instead of your true north, can you come back to true north? Let's look at that. How is it serving you to this pivot to north northwest? And what can you do to lean into that if that seems to be what's unfolding for you? So having a third party, whoever that might be, give you an arm's length,
Mhm.
feedback about, well, what if it was this? What if you tried that? What if it led over here? Let's think about the new opportunities that can come from this pivot in the marketplace or in a relationship or in your job.
Yes.
Mhm,
And I mean, things happen, the economy changes. AI and robots are getting big. 5 years from now,
mhm,
robots or AI might be
mhm,
taking over
mhm,
all kinds of jobs.
mhm,
You might get laid off, but you're going to have to
mhm,
adjust your sales.
mhm,
You're going to have to say, okay,
mhm.
how can I use this to my advantage? How can I
Yes,
work with this change?
yes,
So my job I was working has been disrupted, but it probably opened up new jobs in
yes,
a new area. Can I get myself trained and shift into that? How can I work with this?
yes,
Um, maybe I can find a way to shift to a better career that I
yeah.
always wanted. Maybe I can find a way to use AI
Mhm,
to create my own business so I
mhm,
can work with AI
mhm,
to help me create some type of online agency or something because people are
mhm,
doing stuff like that now.
mhm,
Um, find a way to work with it to turn it into a positive for your life so that you're still heading
mhm,
in the direction you want to head in life.
mhm.
And also make sure you know the direction you want to be heading in life. Make sure you know where you're heading, where you want to go,
That's
because
such
that
a
way you
good
can
point.
always keep redirecting back towards that point.
Well, it seems
Yeah,
sometimes we just let the currents take us, don't we? Staying
right.
sailing
Exactly.
metaphor. We just let the currents take us. We sort of have the shoreline in eyesight and we're not paying attention to where we're drifting to. And haven't we found that? We've been in the job a while, we've been in the relationship for a while, we've
Mhm.
been whatever, and we're just moving along with the drift and we're reasonably happy and things are reasonably working out. And then
Yeah.
change comes and we look up and we can't see the shore anymore. It's like, uh-oh, I need to
Yeah.
actually take the sails back into my hands and be more directive to my life, my
Mhm.
work, my happiness.
And so one of our great coaches, Jonathan, he's our alchemical hypnotherapist. He's brought up this point in some of the roundtables,
Mhm,
which is, I'm going to paraphrase the quote,
mhm,
but paraphrasing the idea is in this new century, in the coming age, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, the the illiterate, the people who will be sort of uneducated are the people who can't unlearn, relearn, adapt, pivot, change because the
mhm.
world is going to start changing faster than ever, faster than it's ever
Yes,
changed before,
yes,
which means you're going to have to be ready to pivot a lot. You're going
yes.
to have to be ready to adjust those sails a lot
Mhm,
to keep heading where you want to go because most likely entire industries will be disrupted. I'm not trying to fear monger here,
No.
I'm not trying to figure, it's just about being prepared,
Yes.
being ready, being ready to adapt and change when you need to, because then you're in a good position
Mhm,
when change does come.
mhm,
You're ready for it, right? So,
mhm,
um, we're gonna have to like be ready to pivot and adapt and do all that as these disruptions happen.
mhm,
There's been a governmental shift of power in the US.
mhm,
That's probably going to bring about a lot of changes. There
mhm,
might be whole government departments that get cut because Elon's saying he's going to do that.
mhm,
Okay, you might be out of work if you were working for a government agency that got cut. But
mhm,
how do you turn this into a positive? How do you pivot, right?
mhm,
It's about learning this. So there may be disclosures coming up,
mhm,
things we didn't know about.
mhm,
How do you pivot to this new information coming in?
mhm.
Um, so go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say there's a famous quote from Henry Ford. If we look back in history at times of great change, when we moved from farms to factories, we moved into an industrialized age. People put telephones in their houses, people had radios and then TVs, and now we carry many computers with us in our phones. But if you think about what was that adaptation and pivoting process for those people at the time, Henry Ford has a great quote, and he said, if I just ask the average person what they want, for transportation, they'd want a faster buggy.
Mhm.
But I'm inventing this
Right,
car, this automobile.
right,
And so
right.
I'm not going to ask them what they want. I'm going to give them the next new thing. And then people are going to adapt for that.
Yep,
And so
yep,
making that change from keeping horses and feeding them hay
right,
and having street sweepers, now there's no more need for bridles and,
right.
people to shoe horses and so on. And so that was a big change societally. And it didn't
Yes.
happen overnight, but it's disruptive. So I loved a quote, and again, I'll paraphrase it from Dean from our last roundtable about
Yeah.
creativity. And the quote was, you have to be willing to do things poorly before you learn to do them well. And so
Yes.
imagine you've been displaced because of a change in the government, just like you make buggies and now there are cars on the road, and that change is coming. And so, at a time of great change, you might have to adapt and learn new things. It might include AI, or it might not be a 9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
And, as these great changes are happening, I think we've seen for the betterment of mankind overall, when these great changes happen, we're in the flow of them. Our compass could need recalibrating.
Mhm.
And this isn't a time to just be carried along with the current. Take charge
I
of your
agree.
sails, give yourself the direction for your individual path to happiness. Right.
And I think there's really never a time to just let yourself float in the current in your life in general.
Mhm,
I mean, maybe at certain moments or
mhm,
certain, but like in as far as the direction of your life in general, you should always take charge because even if you float through life and it works out for you, you still didn't develop the skill, the drive, the character, the capacity that way. If you
mhm,
would have taken charge
mhm,
and made it go the way you wanted it to go, then
mhm,
you developed all that leadership, character, skills,
mhm,
knowledge.
mhm,
So it's just always better to take charge.
mhm,
In general, I would say, but yeah. So connecting what you're saying to AI, you brought up horse and buggies versus the modern, automobile.
mhm,
Everyone thought, everyone like people were gonna lose their jobs. All the like little horse and buggy, like taxi
mhm,
people or whatever, I don't know.
mhm,
The
mhm.
the cart makers for the
People
horses,
that make the
they're
carriages, people that make the
yeah,
bridles, people
yeah,
that
they're
shoe the
all
horses.
people
Yeah.
thought. But what actually happened is the jobs shifted and many jobs were still there, but they shifted. There were many new jobs in making cars now.
Mhm,
It's not like all the jobs went away. There
mhm,
were just new kinds of jobs and people
mhm,
adapted and
mhm,
people still kept horses.
mhm,
People still keep horses now, but it became more about recreation
mhm,
or horseback
mhm,
riding for, fun or for
mhm.
bonding with the
For
horses or for
sport.
shows,
Mhm, mhm,
show horses and stuff like that. It became more about
mhm,
horses were used in those kind of creative ways,
mhm,
less in the functional, just move stuff
mhm,
type of ways. And the same thing will happen with many industries, probably with AI. There will still be human positions, but it will shift.
Mhm.
AI will be doing the repetitive tasks that it can do 1,000 times faster and
Mhm.
with less errors than humans.
Mhm.
And humans might be in positions where they're overseeing the
Mhm.
equipment,
Mhm.
repairing it, checking in on it,
Mhm.
doing some of the creative designer. It'll shift. There will still be roles for people, but
Mhm.
so again, I don't want to fearmonger, but
Mhm.
it's always great to be ready to adapt,
Mhm.
because that's a very important skill in designing your life.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is I had an interview that we're going to post to the channel soon with John, the video guy. So I recommend that you go find him on YouTube, and that's also his website URL, John, the video guy.
Okay.
And he did a side hustle coming out of the pandemic. He realized, wow, things that were pretty certain working for a company, the whole world had to respond to this big change, and now things felt less certain. And
Mhm.
so he started a side hustle of video editing. And while it wasn't fun at the beginning to be in the learning curve about how to send invoices and how to find clients, and he just is good at the skill itself of video editing, he's always loved to teach. So 4 years of side hustle, and this year he launched to now this is his full-time job. He produces a YouTube channel that teaches people about that. And then he has clients that he works with for video editing. And so it doesn't have to be dramatic or scary. If you think about what is a side hustle I could explore to see if I'd like doing this better, or what is the hobby I have to see if I could do that and actually make a living. And maybe you go to part-time or half-time on your job and half-time on this other thing and explore. That's a way to take a hold of your sales. So you can give yourself a couple of years to get it figured out. It doesn't have to be overnight. But yeah, think about this changing world and how you're operating in it, because you're going to be asked to adapt and to pivot. And it's a very good skill to have. So, any final thoughts about adjusting your sales and
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned Dean, and he does coaching, so he does some coaching with us. He does, is it pastoral counseling?
yes.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So from a Christian perspective, he can help
Mhm.
people work through stuff with some biblical understanding, and that's great.
Mhm.
You don't have to be Christian to be part of a life design, but we support anything that helps people through
Mhm.
any modality or
Mhm.
religion or practice that works for them, including
Mhm.
Christianity or different
Mhm.
religious stuff and non-religious stuff. So
Mhm.
it's not, you don't have to believe in any specific thing. It's just a
Mhm.
positive community to help people grow in
Mhm.
the ways that they want to.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wanted to mention that. And also, so reach out to a Life Design and we can connect you with him also if you want to work with him
Mhm.
or with either one of us. And,
Mhm.
and, yeah, so I think this was a great video. It's a very, very important skill to have.
Mhm.
And I would say there's always a way you can do things better, no matter how good you're doing them.
Mhm.
So always be open-minded to adapting, always be open to trying something new.
Mhm.
I think it's good to always head towards the goal of the dream life you want,
Mhm.
stay on that path, but always be open to try different things to see
Mhm.
what gets you there the
Mhm.
fastest and
Mhm.
the easiest.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
working with the wind rather than fighting it. A better way to
exactly.
go. So, well, good. Come visit us at
Mhm.
ALifeDesigned.org. 30 days free membership to try out the videos in our library and
Absolutely.
upcoming speed coaching. So we'll put
Yes.
that in the description, and we look forward to
Good.
seeing you there. Until the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.